Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone can be seated. Sergeant Evans, come back and resume your seat on the witness stand, sir. You've been sworn in and you're still under oath to tell the truth, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, you sent a note. You indicated that the current slide is not in our packet. Hopefully we corrected that because it was not in my information I had either. And a lot of times what happens, you put stuff in the copy machine. I think Ms. Hagerman told me it's about 80 pages or so. And he had indicated that 70 pages have been copied for the jury. There's some concluding pages that may not be there. But a lot of times you put things in the copy machine that may have 80 some odd pages, and sometimes pages just don't get processed, they get stuck. So that may be what happened because I don't have those pages either, but hopefully that page that is on the screen now has now been provided to you. I think the next page may have been missing also, but hopefully that will take care of anything that may have been missing. Mr. I'm sorry, Mr. Hagerman. You may proceed.
Back it up on the slide. I think this is the first one there.
Yes, sir. You may proceed.
All right, cell phone record, cell tower hotness search. And now if we click forward, this was the second slide that we're missing. All right, what do we see here, Sergeant Evans?
So we were just asked to look at all the tower usage for the records for the 31 days. So we ran essentially a report that tells us the most frequently used towers. So looking at this is not the whole report, this is just a snippet of it. But you can see it shows unknown as your very top one. Below that, the next tower is 249, and that was used 23% of the time, or 518 between July 5th and August 5th.
Is that what we were calling home base or whatever, or home tower, I guess?
Yes, sir. That was the tower that was closest to his house that was utilized the night on the 18th before the murder. Looking down the row, we get to Tower 106. We can see that it was only used 3.8% of the time, or 85 times for that 31 days. And that was the tower that was at the Windike Country Club in the golf course that was facing north. So they were just asking us to look at the usage of towers just to see the frequency that they're used. And that's all this report is.
What's the frequency of usage from July the 5th all the way to August the 5th?
Yes, sir. Next. That's it for that. So they asked us to analyze the day after the homicide, or the day of the homicide, July 19th. And so these are just, we didn't map towers out. This is just going to show you call records. You can go next. The importance of this was that we could see that on the 19th at 6 o'clock in the morning, or approximately 6 hours after the 911 call, Mr. Turner makes an outgoing call. He doesn't call Shara Wright's phone. He calls what we term to as Snoop's phone, or Lorenzen Wright Jr.'s phone.
It's 6 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
Outgoing from Billy Turner's phone to Lorenzen Wright Jr. Snoop.
Yes, sir.
The duration of 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yes, sir. 1 minute and 29 seconds.
All right. What else is highlighted? Oh, more calls.
So they asked us to look at the calls that were after the homicide to see if he was actually calling Shara on her phone, or was he calling Shara on a different phone. And we believe that he was calling Shara on the Snoop phone, or the Lorenzen Wright Jr. phone. You can see later in the day at 5 o'clock, or 5:52, 17:52 hours, he has an incoming call from that number. So now that person, or Shara, is calling him back on that number.
So it is back and forth, like Detective Brown testified to, between Billy Turner's phone and Snoop's phone.
Yes,
the day
sir.
after the homicide.
Yes, sir.
Good, next one.
So now we're moving into the cell tower mapping of Mr. Jimmy Martin. So we were asked to map Jimmy Martin's cell towers and cell phone records. So again, I was provided that information for 2010. He actually utilized the cell phone carrier Verizon. So this is going to be his cell tower mapping for the same date range that we utilized for Mr. Turner. So next slide. So this is the breakdown or call report for that. We're really not going to, we're going to focus more on towards the bottom of the page where you see the highlights between 23, 44 hours. We're going to focus on those calls towards the end of the 18th, into the 19th. We highlighted the top calls because those indicate the calls that were between Mr. Turner and Mr. Martin, based on Mr. Martin's cell phone records, not Mr. Turner's records.
And if we can go back to those just real quick. First call, 4:56 p.m. incoming, meaning
incoming, meaning that Mr. Turner actually called Mr. Martin. That's the incoming.
Because we're looking at Mr. Martin's records.
Yes, sir.
And it has a duration of
38
38
seconds.
seconds. And what does that indicate to you?
It more than likely wasn't answered.
The next call's at 5:38. It says outgoing.
So this would be, 40 minutes later, Mr. Martin now is calling Mr. Turner back.
Has a duration of 1 minute and 42 seconds.
So that would definitely indicate that there was a conversation based on the length of the call.
And then the next call
Is outgoing again, that's at 18:14 or 6:14 hours on the 18th. And that's again Mr. Martin calling Mr. Turner, and that call lasted for 4 minutes and 46 seconds.
Then you said we can skip down to these calls at the bottom between 11:44, 11:55, and then 12 minutes after midnight. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They asked us to analyze the same date range tower locations before the homicide, before the 911 call, and kind of right after it. So that's what we did.
This is
So at 11,
Billy
it's
Turner calling Jimmy Martin at 11:44.
yes, sir.
And then Jimmy Martin calling Billy Turner at 11:55 and 12 minutes after midnight.
No, sir. The one outgoing after is a different number, so the actual contact ID is a different one. We didn't identify that one.
The one in the middle is not.
Yes, sir.
I understand.
And then if you go down to the 12 minutes after midnight, that is Billy. That's Mr. Martin calling Mr. Turner at 12 minutes after midnight. And in between there is where you have the Batesville payphone calls that showed up on Mr. Turner's records.
So we're looking at Jimmy Martin.
We're looking at Jimmy Martin's records right now. So next slide. So this is a little bit harder to see based on, although I thought we could zoom in a little bit more. But this is the calls for Mr. Martin and the cell towers. Now, if you notice that, get to it on mine. This first call that we mapped is on the July 18, 2010 at 11:44 p.m. And the tower usage is in Batesville, Mississippi.
So that phone's in basement.
Yes, sir. That tower, you're going to see the next slide, but that call, yes, sir, the first tower used for that call is in Batesville, Mississippi.
Okay.
Go to the next.
Martin's phone in basement.
So this is the starting tower is the one on the right, the ending tower is the one on the left, which is the next slide. So the phone is in Batesville, Mississippi still. This is again at 11:44 p.m. on July 18th, 2010.
Since there are two towers down here, does that mean the phone's moving around in basement?
Yes, sir. So that's the right without the bubble is the starting tower. The left with the bubble is the ending tower for that call. So that's one call, and the phone was traveling between those two towers.
All right. So 11:45 p.m., 11:44 p.m. Jimmy Martin's phone is in Batesville, traveling around in Batesville.
Yes, sir. So the next slide, the call is at 11:55 p.m. And again, the phone is in Batesville. We go to the next one, and this is the call at 12:12. So this is the call to Mr. Turner at 12 minutes after midnight. So this is the same time that Lorenzen Wright's calling 911. Jimmy Martin is calling Billy Turner from that. Now he's in Sardis. So he's gone up from Batesville to Sardis.
Batesville is here, Sardis here, Memphis further north.
We're about to see an overview. Yes, sir. The next slide. So there's your overview of the towers for Mr. Martin versus where the homicide is located. So we can see that he's in Batesville and Sardis, and then way up north of us is Memphis. So
At the time of the homicide, he's at the tower in Sardis.
yes, sir. At 12:12, Mr. Martin's phone is calling Mr. Turner's phone at the same time that Mr. Lorenzen is calling 911.
With Jimmy Martin's phone being in Sardis.
Yes, sir. So, any more questions on that? All right. So we were asked to analyze what we call the cleanup, or the cleanup of the crime scene after the homicide. So this is the cell tower mapping for Jimmy Martin and Billy Turner, or what we would call the cleanup, or the when they met up to do the cleanup after the homicide. So on July 21st, Mr. Martin drove from Batesville, Mississippi to Memphis, where at that point we do believe that he met up with Mr. Turner at Shara Wright's house. We're going to see the cell tower mapping that indicates that. Next. So these are the calls we're going to reference. And we just wanted to show the different calls on the 20th and the 21st that Mr. Turner and Mr. Martin were continually communicating throughout the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. They didn't just stop. We have records, like I said, of incoming calls. We have an outgoing call on the 20th, which is the very top two. Then coming down to the 20th, even at 10 o'clock, so 10:02, we have an incoming call from Mr. Turner to Mr. Martin. Then we look like we have a return call that same night at 23:27. And then moving down into the 21st, starting at 10:20, this is where we're going to see the cell tower mapping show Mr. Martin travel from Batesville, Mississippi, up Interstate 55, and around to where Shara Wright lived in Collierville. So you go next. So this is the mapping. Next. So this is the first call down here at the lower left. This is going to show that he was starting to head up Interstate 55, or maybe 51 or 55. I would say it's 55.
And I hear that you're talking in sort of colloquial terms when you say he drove up. You don't know if he was driving a car or not, do you?
All we can tell from these records is that his cell phone utilized towers that ran along the interstate and then ends up in the coverage area where Shara Wright's house was.
So when we talk about this, we can say that
You can say that on 7/21 at 10:20 a.m., his cell phone connected to a cell tower on Interstate 55, heading from Batesville towards Memphis.
Okay.
And based on the direction of the tower, it's facing north, which would indicate it's traveling north. Because if we look at the next tower, now he's connected to a tower closer to 55 and 240, or 240 and 69 or 70, wherever that's at. That's right there on the interstate. So go to the next one. So now we're looking at 11:13 a.m. He's connected to a tower over there by Southwind High School. Again, we just referenced the homicide scene, so we have a point of reference in where Shara Wright's house is on the far right. We can go to the next one. Now, this is the location where it actually shows him at 12:10. He is utilizing a tower at the bottom right that would have coverage potentially over Shara Wright's house.
And again, we saw Billy's records earlier. You can't place his phone actually inside that house or on the front yard or in the street in front, can you?
No, sir, I cannot.
You're saying his cell phone is in an area that has the same coverage as Shara Wright's house.
Yes, sir.
But up to this point, you can say that his cell phone traveled from Batesville to this area on 7/21.
Starting around 10 o'clock and ending in around 12:10 is when he's using that tower. But look at the next slide. So now the tower's moving, so he is. I have to go back and look where we're at. He's now using the tower this is at 4:17 p.m. So when we got almost a 4-hour gap between 12:10, the next tower is at 4:07.
Okay,
So
a 4-hour gap in his records.
there's just no call data. There's no voice data. So we don't know the phone. Not saying it wasn't moving. We don't have any records in between 12:10 and 4:07 p.m.
So we're looking 4 hours later. It was in the area that had the same coverage as Sheriff's house.
Yes, sir.
And now we're looking at 4 hours later somewhere else.
Yes, sir. 4 hours later, it's somewhere else. It's down here off of Bill Morris Parkway, kind of close to Bill Morris Parkway and Kirby Park. So the next tower is going to show at 4:17, and it's up closer to Poplar Pike. And then the next tower is back again around Kirby and 385. And that's Is that the one that's 716?
716.
Yes. That should be the last tower for that day. Now go to the next slide. So this would show you an overview of the traveling of towers. So we start in Mississippi. We travel north to Memphis. We hit 240. Then we're going to travel down towards Southwind. Then we're going to travel towards the tower that has coverage over Shara Wright's home. Then we're going to travel back over here, and we're kind of encompassing an area that's close to the crime scene. This around that is where his towers are located. Now there's a 4-hour gap between the 1210 and the 407. Then we have another gap. We have another call between 407 and like 417. Then there's another 3-hour gap until like 7 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So he's not utilizing his phone a lot that day.
There's at least 2 large gaps in coverage on 721 with regard to Jimmy's phone.
Yes, sir. Next slide. So this is the same time frame we looked at Mr. Turner's records. So again, July 21st, 2010. Go to next. So we looked at these records, and we noticed that he hit off at 12 o'clock to 12:21. He utilized towers 305 and 109. Okay, those are the C Spire towers. Tower 109 is the same tower that was used on the night that we believe he was at Shara's house before the murder on the 18th. He's kind of bouncing back and forth between these towers that are right next to her in the coverage area of her home. We can go next. So these are the towers that he's utilizing. So he's got calls at using tower 305, which if you point to where Shara's home is, that tower there. So that box above it, he has calls at 12 o'clock and 12:03. And then if you go to the tower to the right of it, which is tower 109, he's got calls at 12:04, 12:05, 12:20. So his cell phone is within those 2 different towers on those sectors that are facing the same direction.
How does that match up with Jimmy's phone at the same time?
You go to the next slide. So that's the overlay or the next. Mr. Martin's phone at 12:10 is a tower facing the opposite direction of Mr. Turner's phone, but they both have coverage in the same area of Collierville.
Okay, so Shara Wright's house on Jimmy's.
Is to the left,
Shara Wright's house here.
is to more to the right. So yes, sir. So again, 2 different carriers, 2 different cell tower locations, but they're both in the same honeycomb kind of coverage area. And they're both receiving calls or making calls at around 12:10 in the afternoon on the 21st.
Okay.
So next, we move on to Ms. Wright's iPhone exam from 2010.
And is that, does the jury have copies to go further, or is that the end of the jury's copies? You have copies to go further? Okay.
So in September of 2016, I was asked to examine Shara Wright's phone from 2010. So she had a much older iPhone in 2010. And so we got a search warrant. We examined that phone in September of 2016. Go forward. So this is just a summary what it looks like. We have an extraction report. All this is telling you is the device. It's an iPhone 3G. It tells you the software version she was running back in 2010 was 3.1.2. It gives you a serial number of the phone. It can give you an IMEI number, so we're switching gears from records from carriers to a physical phone. So her IMEI number, go ahead. Oh, so the IMEI number is like a serial number for a phone. Everybody's phone has an IMEI number. We call it an equipment number. So it just validates that that's her phone. If we looked at her records, her IMEI number would match from her cell carrier to her cell phone. It's a way for us to verify and validate that the phone that we're looking at is the same records that we're looking at, the same person.
So you did a physical extraction on her phone?
Yes, sir, we did. Next. So this slide here indicates and tells you what was extracted. So if we're looking at the right side under content, we see calendar, cookies, instant messages. Now, instant messages, you're going to see a number of 295 and then a number beside that in parentheses that's red that says 83. The 83 is indicative of deleted messages that we were able to retrieve. So we had 295 instant messages. Of those 295 instant messages, 83 of those were deleted.
So we think we can delete messages from our phone, but sometimes you can find them.
Sometimes we can. You also got contacts, device locations, notes, and then under data files, you've got audio, databases, and so on. But this is indicative of what our forensic software tool was able to examine or extract out of her phone, and then we used a different tool to analyze it. So next. So they asked us to focus on a timeline. So we did a timeline search. A timeline, what that tells me is I can pull up a timeline of any one of your phones, and I can see what you did today on it. I can see that at 6 o'clock in the morning your alarm went off. I can see that at 6:04 you looked at the news.
Well, wait a second, you need a warrant, stuff like that.
Well, yes, sir. Once we have a warrant, we can analyze your phone and go the timeline of everything that you did. So if you made a phone call at 7, searched the internet at 7:10, checked an email, it breaks it down timeline-wise what was done on the phone. So we ran a timeline search on her iPhone for looking really for instant messages between her and Billy Turner. We used the date range of the 18th to the 23rd. What we noticed on that is she had deleted all the messages between herself and Mr. Turner between July 18, 2010 and July 23, 2010. And we're going to show how we can tell it was deleted in a second. But that's where we referenced that 295 messages, 83 of those were deleted, but we recovered those 83 messages that were deleted. Now, were there more messages? Probably. But our software only extracted and recovered and was able to parse out or analyze 83 of them. So next. So now we're going to look at the actual instant messages between Shara Wright and Billy Turner on July 18th, 2010. So what we're looking at here on the left is the actual message, what we can see. We can tell it came from the phone. It was on July 18th at 11:47 and 17 seconds. That is the offset for UTC -5, which is our central time zone offset with daylight savings. We can tell that it was a sent SMS message, and we can tell that it was a message sent to Billy Turner at his phone number, 239-3322. And we can see the body of the message reads, "I'm going to need my commission, ... Ren want you to bring your cards in the AM before he fly out, ... You owe me, boy, !"
This message was deleted by Ms. Wright.
If you look at the top left, the top arrow, there's a red X. The red X indicates that it was deleted and that our software was able to recover it. So this is essentially 28 minutes before the 911 call. This is part of where we talked about Mr. Turner's records only showed voice, so we didn't see the text messages. This is more than likely an iPhone to an iPhone message. But these are the messages between Shara and Billy that night. Next. Mr. Turner then responds at 11:49 and 04 seconds. Okay. So again, we can tell that at the top left it was deleted by the X. We can tell the date time is 7/18/2010 at 11:49, or 2 minutes after she sent the text. And then you've got, it was to Mr. Turner, or I'm sorry, from Mr. Turner. So this came from him to her. And then the body of the text was okay. And, go back. I'm sorry, go back one. Nope, you're good. Go back one, up one. There you go. So under status, so we have source is phone, subject is blank, timestamp, status. The status indicates the message was read. So if y'all have been sitting here all day for several days, if someone's texting you right now, you have not looked at your phone and have not read that message. So if I examined your phone today, right now, the status would read unread. When you go home tonight, you check all your messages that you've missed all day,
They don't get to do that.
and you click on, okay. Next week when you're done and you check your messages, the status would change. What that's indicating to us is that she read the message. So she received that message from him, read it on her phone. It's not just something that was never opened or read. Go forward. So Next, we did a timeline search for Shara Wright, Jimmy Martin. We found 14 instant messages between Shara and Jimmy. The date range was July 15th to July 17th, 2010. And again, all the instant messages between Shara and Jimmy were also deleted on Shara's iPhone. So she's deleted the messages between Mr. Turner, deleted the messages between Mr. Martin. Now, in Shara's iPhone, she had Jimmy Martin's phone number saved under the contact Edna J. So it wasn't Jimmy Martin. You look at her contacts, it doesn't come across as Jimmy Martin, it comes across as Edna J. Just so we would clarify that. Next. So now this is several days before the homicide. This is July 16th, or 7/16/2010, at approximately 1:28 in the afternoon. And this is Shara sending a message to Jimmy saying, I know you tired of me and my party, but what's up? I don't know if you need me to go into any other detail about the party. And yes, sir, July 16th. So go next. Now this is him responding back to Shara. So it's from Jimmy Martin. That same day, a couple of minutes later, at 1:30 in the afternoon, so about 4 or 5 minutes later, you're good, everybody's straight. Now we believe this is a code talk between Shara and Jimmy. Next. Oh, I'm sorry, go back one. So you can see again the status shows that she did read that message. It was an SMS, so she got the message. All right, go forward. And then later, that same day, a couple hours later, Jimmy sends her another text that says, don't forget my wallet. Same day. Next. So, overview of that, her 2010 iPhone 3G, we didn't get as much data as we would off an iPhone today. But the data that we did extract, like I said, we did get some deleted text messages. We didn't get a lot of location data. And we were able to get some message data between her and Jimmy and her and Billy Turner. So moving forward, they also asked me to analyze her, this would be Shara Wright's iPhone 6S Plus. Now this was after she was arrested. And this phone exam occurred in June of 2019.
Right, so what we saw before was an analysis of her cell phone that she had in 2010
Yes,
at
sir.
the time of the murder.
At the time of the murder.
This is one she has at the time of her arrest in 2019?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The jury has that and the information that was given to them because I don't either, so you might want to take some time to make sure it's explained satisfactorily to the jury because I don't think they have those pages.
Let's go back to the page before it. I know that you added some pages into the PowerPoint after we copied everything.
Yes, sir.
Because everybody asked you something, so it's not your fault.
Yes, sir.
Did you have occasion to examine another cell phone belonging to Shara Wright?
Yes, sir, I did.
And when did you examine that?
In June of 19.
And what cell phone was this that she had?
This was her personal phone at the time she was arrested.
Right. And to your knowledge, was she arrested in 2016?
It was 2000. It should have been, I think it was 2017 or 18.
2017.
17.
2017. That phone was taken from her at the time?
Yes, sir.
Search warrant prepared?
Yes, sir.
And y'all extract information of her phone in 2019?
Yes, sir, we did.
All right. We're going to see some of what you found in the phone?
Yes, sir, we are.
All right.
So we utilized the forensic software tool GrayKey to conduct the extraction of her iPhone 6S Plus. What we found on that is the device information. So her device's name was Shara's iPhone. The phone number at the time was the 346-219-1148. Again, it shows her IMEI number. Her operating system version was 10.2, and we were able to obtain her passcode of 1104. So we identified all that. Next. This is just a breakdown of the actual extraction report from GrayKey. So it just shows you kind of what I went over. It's going to show you the phone number, the device name, the operating system. It's going to show you the IMEI number, I didn't include it, but it would also show you the password. This indicates when we initially, it's an event log. So when did we plug the phone into the software? What did the software do? When was the software finished? That's what it is. At that point, we have a zip file of the extracted data. We take the zip file and we auto-load that into another software program. Next. So the zip file that we extracted from Gracie of her phone, we use Cellbrite Physical Analyzer to then analyze the actual phone data. Next. This is a device information sheet of that phone. Just an overview of essentially here she had her message retention duration set for forever at the very top. This tells you her settings on her phone. It has her ICCID number, it's got her IMEI number, her unique identifiers, her Apple ID is towards the bottom. So this just gives you an overview of the data that was extracted out of the device. Next. All right, so we saw in 2010 what we got. This is what we got in 2019.
A lot more nowadays.
Yes, sir.
Anything in particular has some web histories on it?
Yes, sir. We were asked to analyze the web history on the device. So we actually went through everything, but we've got chats, device notifications, passwords, web bookmarks. We've got contacts, emails, searches, web history. The web history, you see there's 6,077 that was obtained, and of that, 3,454 were deleted. So again, everything that you see in parentheses that's red, the user has deleted.
Let me ask you, before we get to the web history, was she ever using this phone, the one that she was found in
17?
2017? Was she ever using this phone to contact Billy Turner?
No, sir, she was not. We did not find communication between her and Billy Turner on this device.
On this device?
Yes, sir. We can move forward.
Web history?
So on or about 12/5/2017, this is when actually Mr. Turner was arrested. The police department released all the media releases about his arrest and the gun. We then analyzed her web history around that same time, so that would be 12/5, 12/6, and 17. What she started searching on December 6, 2017 was indictment definition, Billy Turner. And then she searched through fingerprints, stay on objects that are underwater. She also did various other searches related to the homicide of Lorenzen Wright. Next slide. So this is a snippet of the actual searches themselves. So on 12/6/17, at about 6:50 in the morning is when it starts. She starts searching for how long do fingerprints last in water. Finger marks on glass.
See, water washes fingerprints underwater. Fingerprints stay on objects that are underwater. Finger marks on glass and metal surfaces recovered from stagnant water. How long do fingerprints last underwater? And a weapon, she misspelled it.
She has, yeah, her first one she was a little nervous, or she mistyped.
And a weapon had prints after 7 years. Okay.
Now, she also didn't utilize just the traditional Google for all of these searches. We can see that on the one third down from the top, fingerprints underwater, question mark, she used a message board to search that.
So she's searching Yahoo and other stuff like that.
She's searching, yes, sir. She's using multiple search forms, search tools to try and. Indication from us is that you don't want everything in Google. So you're going to go to a different message board and start searching things.
What do we have after that?
Next slide. So this is actually, if we went through and looked at her phone on 12/6.
And this is 12/6 is the day or the day after Mr. Turner's arrest.
Yes, sir.
That was the same day as the searches we just saw on the previous page.
Yes, sir. She continuously searches Billy Turner, indictments, guns underwater. She actually searched this courtroom. She actually searched Judge Coffey. She searched everybody that was related to this investigation at the time. And it's just search after search after search after search. Now, this is just a snippet of that. But
all on the same day that she's searching for the prints on a weapon underwater.
Yes, sir. It's just we can scroll on and on and on. The whole day she's searching. I mean, you can tell it's every couple minutes, every minute.
We can proceed to the next one. I think we get the point.
That was it. But that's she was constantly searching things on her phone for this investigation.
Your glass might pick up on the screen because mine just did. Move to the
that?
I'm sorry, what just happened?
I told the jury that their outline they have might pick up on the screen is now
Oh,
shown.
okay. And the final thing, Detective, is actually something that we actually already have in evidence, but I think you put it in a form that's a little easier for us to read, and it hasn't been published to the jury yet. So I'm going to have you publish, me and you publish this.
Okay, I was asked to analyze Jimmy Martin's Facebook messages. So I was provided a zip drive or a zip file and a PDF file of his Facebook returns. So if someone, they did a search warrant, got his Facebook records or Facebook messages. So people can utilize Facebook Messenger to text. Instead of me using a traditional cell phone, I can text you through Facebook, and I can text you through Instant Messenger. And so they asked us to take the messages, analyze them, and see what we could find.
And are these going to be messages from back in 2010?
Yes, sir, they are.
These are records that were obtained as part of the original investigation, is that right?
Yes, sir. So again, we use the same software tool that we did with the phone exam, so you're going to see sort of the same look. So this is Cellbrite again. We're able to auto-load the Facebook records into Cellbrite. From there, we were able to obtain 130 calendar notifications. We had 484 chats, with 172 being deleted. 2,283 for social media. We had call logs, contacts, users. So this is the data that was obtained from the Facebook records.
These are Jimmy Martin's Facebook records.
Yes, sir. These are Jimmy Martin's records. Next.
All right, so did y'all find messages between Jimmy and Shara?
Yes, sir. So Shara's Facebook is listed as Shara Robinson, not Shara Wright. But yes, sir, we were able to find messages between Mr. Martin and Miss Wright, and she uses the name Robinson.
You aware what? At one point she was married and
Yes.
her name was Robinson.
Yes, sir.
That's not an alias.
No, it's not an alias. She uses the Robinson name on her Facebook.
And
We were able to basically extract just these two participants. So instead of looking at all the messages in a timeline, we basically said, okay, give us Shara Robinson, Jimmy Martin, their messages between each other. We're going to see the flow of bubbles for all their messages. And you're starting on June 16th, 2010 is the first message. And that message would be Shara Wright sending Jimmy a message, good looking out, thanks. And then the flow goes from there.
okay.
Now, my snips of this, you're going to see the last bubble as the first bubble on the next slide, just to indicate we didn't skip a bubble. So you're going to see it, it's going to repeat itself.
I got you. Print it out so you see when you go to the next page.
Yes,
print it out.
because if we were looking at this on our machine, we would just be able to scroll. We can't scroll on a PDF. So next. So they asked us to look at this message here on July 4th, 2010. So this is Shara texting Jimmy. And she's talking about, man, she says, man, you driving me crazy with this party. We keep getting our days and times mixed up. What are you going to do? We got all our end. What else you need? Because I can't find another DJ this late. I want to talk. I want to do it before the 18th because we got a family reunion and other stuff coming up. Give me a holler back. Let me know something. And something is in all caps and an exclamation.
I think counsel described it before as obviously some sort of crude code. Is that, you get that impression?
Yes, sir.
Next message.
So that same, well, actually a couple days later on the 7th, Mr. Martin replies, so what's this? So this, what's up? 300 USD left. Towel in Florida. Had the concert there. You want me to go to party, adult theme, but the party has kids. When is it going to be an all adult party, or how to plan around that? Also got a plan around my contacts there, then a rental, question mark. Yeah, it's very coded.
To your knowledge, was Shara Wright ever planning a party that she was going to have rappers and DJs come to?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Next. So again, on the 7th, she replies back, it's okay to throw a party outside, question mark. And his response to that is, all right, gotcha. Next. She then, on the 7th, now they're going back and forth. Kids in and adults out. Let me know what you think. Still on the 7th, Mr. Martin replies, don't know, just concerned about the noise and the neighbors. But I'll have to work it out I'll have to work it out if no other way. So he's talking about noise and neighbors. Next. So this goes on to the 7th. They're still talking. She says, cool, ... love you, ... thank you for everything. I'm assuming it's everything. It's every with the T. She then actually corrects herself, everything ... I owe you. And then they don't communicate from the 7th to the 13th. So you're looking at almost a 6-day gap. And she's texting him, what's up? And then she texts him again on the 13th. We still on? Question mark. Next. Then he replies back on the 14th, the next day. Tying up loose ends, moving studios, changing off plan. Your artist can't find any equipment. He can't trade or sell my big keyboard, but that's what I'm trying to do. The other two are cool, but I need a 9-inch studio monitor. Don't want people sweat and stuff bumping up in the noon AC joint.
In the non-AC joint.
We're going to have to rent something to haul all this. Too much hassle cleaning up. Don't want to be riding dirty. Then the money got to come over our ass.
Got to
Cover our ass, I'm sorry. It's hard to read it. She then replies back to him on the 14th, you need money for something? I got $200. He replies back on the 14th, trying to find them monitors.
It's actually
Try to find them monitors. Does our speakers, everybody use them? I can't find them around here. Can't afford new ones. Let me know. He should be able to help. Then I'll scoop him and we good.
7/14.
That's on the 14th. Next. So again, we're going to skip the top one. That was the last one, the previous one. Shara replies on the 21st. So
And now the murders happened. So it's murder happens on 7/18, turning into 7/19. This is 2 days later on 7/21.
Yes, sir. Shara replies, I give up. Nothing is working out. ... Everything us too high, including getting the pool up and running. Memphis pool trying to put a dent in my pockets. I know you done helped me. I done helped and I done worried you, but I think I'm gonna quit. I'm sick of this party. In the meantime, maybe I will plan for after the family reunion. Please let your artist know I'm serious, but just not ready right now.
And he responded. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go back. He just responded the next day with, "You need to call your auntie."
Yeah,
He never responds to that.
Well,
He responds the day after.
The next chain is
You need to call your auntie?
7/22.
Yep.
He says you need to call auntie.
Now, this is all going to be around the time on 7/21 when Mr. Martin drove to Memphis. So it's all the same day. Next. You got it.
You found it?
You found it. What's good? And that's the end of the conversation.
All the way through
To the end. Yes, sir, we have.
I got no further questions, Sean.
Council Clerk, please. sign for you. All right. I'll take it. Make sure it doesn't get out. Is this your copy? Yes, sir. I'll put a big tape on it so we can make sure that it doesn't get loose. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about 4:21, 4:22, and I asked Ms. Thomas and Mr. Perry about how long they thought their cross-examination would be, because I don't want to limit lawyers in cross-examination. Ms. Perry told me it might take a while. I believe Sergeant Evans has been testifying for a while on direct examination, so I don't want to limit the cross-examination. I don't want you working too late tonight because we're here for a pretty long time last night. So we're going to start tomorrow. I've been here too long. We're going to start tomorrow morning at 9:30. Again, we don't have very much docket set this week, and we've actually been waiting for 10 o'clock every morning to get here before we can start trial. So we're going to start trial tomorrow morning at 9:30. You cannot discuss the case with anyone. You cannot discuss the case amongst yourselves. Let me know how your food is. Let me know if the accommodation is okay. Let me know if the deputy is still treating you well. And we'll resume trial tomorrow morning at 9:30. Take all your belongings with you. Take your trial notebooks with you. Let me know if you need more paper, too. We'll see you in the morning at 9:30. Thank you all. Sergeant Evans, I'll have a step down from the witness stand. We'll see you back in the morning at 9:30. Cannot discuss your testimony with anyone over the break tonight, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your presence today. Yes, sir. Do we need to, can I adjourn court, or do you need to approach? Okay. And for the record, the jury is out, and the lawyers just told me they need to approach, and we'll address that as soon as we adjourn. Anything else we need to discuss before we have this conference off the record and before we resume tomorrow morning?
No, sir, yeah.
This court stand adjourned to 9 o'clock Thursday morning, March 17, 2022 for the regular calendar, and we will start trial tomorrow morning at 9:30. Indicated earlier, we have very small dockets this week, and we're resetting most of the docket other than jail arraignments, and probably we're spending about 30 minutes or so just waiting for 10 o'clock. So we'll start at 9:30 tomorrow morning. We'll make sure we get the press in, so get your mics tested and get everything else tested before we start trial. We're starting adjourned to tomorrow morning.
All right.